The next person on the agenda has gotten held up in Sacramento. Imagine somebody getting held up in legislative days in Sacramento. Susan Eggman was going to be here, our assembly person. Instead, Joel Reyna is here from her office. He's waving back there in the back. So if you have any questions for Joel, he'll be glad to help you. He'll be glad to offer constituent services tonight, as well as to take any questions back to assembly person Eggman. So the next person on our agenda is for an organization that's near and dear to every heart in Mountain House. That's Lammersville Unified School District. So as Dr. Nicholas comes up here, I would like to recognize Board of Trustees member Dave Pombo. He is here this evening as well, so he's another one of your elected officials. I don't see the other board members here, so I will turn it over to Dr. Nicholas.
So the first two meetings that I got to speak at, I was talking about kids and programs and initiatives. Tonight I get to talk to you a little bit about California school finance, which is a little less exciting. But there's a very important transformation that's happening, and it's important that the community knows. So now that our board president has been acknowledged, I'd also like to acknowledge those amazing t-shirts with sweatshirts over here to my right. That's the athletic boosters for our Mountain House High School Mustangs. And one of the, now it's important because while we're sitting here and you're watching the buildings go up, also understand that the wood's being brought in to get acclimated for the gym floor in the next couple of weeks. So our sports program is rolling, and to go to school sites and watch young little kids wearing their Mountain House Mustang t-shirts, the high school t-shirts. I was in the Turner construction, I guess we'd call it a portable. She was wearing one, so go out and buy some spirit wear. You're helping out the kids, you're helping out the sports program, and you're promoting the Mustangs who hopefully will be winning championships about this time next year. So now, yes, absolutely. So I promise not to talk about California school finance in the sense that I'm going to tell you about a very dry and kind of boring policy wonk presentation. I'm going to try to explain Governor Brown's vision for really a historic transformation in how schools are funded and tie it to our children who are going to school. So that is my goal tonight, and I'm hoping not to be boring. So first of all, in December of last year, our board passed a strategic plan. The strategic plan was a process that took about 8 months and was a community-wide outreach. Students, teachers, site administration, district administration, community members, and the like were asked, what do you want to see out of the Lammersville Unified School District and as it expands to Mountain House High School? And over that process, 5 areas of concentration were identified. Student achievement, district culture and leadership, fiscal strength, parent and community relationships, and 21st century schools that build college and career-ready kids. So, oh, that's the first slide. Sorry, my bad. Oh. So the thing here, so in case you don't know, is actually the thing I'm supposed to be playing with here. So now that I've got that. All right. Did I tell you about the t-shirts for sale over there? I don't know. Okay, so the bottom line behind the strategic plan is it has to be based on a set of measurables. What are our kids doing to achieve the goals so we can announce to the community with pride our kids are achieving the goals that were set for them in the plan? So we have some baseline data coming in from our new computer-based assessment, which shows that our kids are doing exceptionally well. Earlier this year, the California state government made a decision to stop the California standards test for this school year in transition to the new federal standards, Common Core state standards. And so we are going to have data for our kids. This is our first attempt at it in terms of it's a computer-based program. But what you want to see is the color on the left, the lighter color is how our kids did, and the color on the right is where they should be by the end of the year to be declared advanced and proficient. And what you want to see is, at the beginning with the little ones, they're not going to necessarily be right at the mark, but you should see as it gets towards the 8th grade that we either meet or exceed the mark, and this is for reading, and it's in fact happening in our district in both ELA reading, which is here, and in math. So what we can say with conviction is we announced earlier this year that Lammersville Unified School District is the highest performing school district, unified school district in San Joaquin County, and these numbers say that nothing's changed. And this is a mid-year mark. We'll be presenting this to the board more extensively on March 5th, but it tells you that our goals in our strategic plan are designed, in fact, to meet the marks for the kids and preparing them for college and career readiness. So has anyone here in the audience heard of LCFF? Thank you, Board President Pombo knows what that term means. LCFF is the new term for California financing of schools, local control funding formula. And essentially it's a simple process and completely kind of puts on its ear what the old system was. It's a new formula, it's based on a targeted percentage of students, and it's going to take 8 years to implement. So what that means is there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. It's a larger amount of money than what schools have been dealing with during the budget crisis. And incrementally over the next 8 years, based on a base target and some specifically identified groups of kids, schools will be funded. And I have a chart here in a second that will explain it. So what are the identified groups of kids? The focus areas to get additional funding for school district are low-income students, which used to be called low socioeconomic, English learners, and foster youth. So districts like Lammersville Unified don't have significant numbers in any of those categories. We still get a base limit that is slightly above what we were getting in the past. And then gradually and incrementally for districts with large numbers of low-income students or large number of English learners, they get a proportion larger than that based on a percentage per student. So I'll let you kind of digest that for a second. But local control funding formula is about this, is we're going to put less rules, less strings, and let local control, our board, community input, make some of the decisions about this increase in income. And ultimately, because everything that happens with the state, there's an accountability plan. And I'm going to explain that in a couple of minutes. So I'm just going to speak briefly about this chart. It's graduated in a scale of 4. Kindergarten through 3rd grade gets an amount of money in the base. Does this have a laser thing? Oh, it does, cool. Okay, so K3 gets a base amount, 4-6 gets a base amount, 7-8 gets a base amount, and 9-12 gets a base amount. That's the new funding formula. They also give money for class size reduction and career technical education for the designated areas. So that's basically the new funding formula that everybody gets. Then based on low-income students, English learners, or foster youth, you get a supplemental grant that's based on the number of kids that you have. So that's a basic look at the new formula and the way it funds schools. So in our district, we have about 17% of our students who qualify for free and reduced lunch, and we have about 9% of our students who are English learners. The challenge and the actually greatness of the diversity of our district is typically in the Central Valley, if you have large EL numbers, it's mostly Spanish-speaking students. In our district, we have a number of different languages spoken here, so we're unique compared to a typical Central Valley district. Now here's where things get really complicated, and not complicated for us at all, but for other districts. If any one of these areas exceeds 55% threshold, then an additional 50% of the base amount gets applied to that student. In our district, we don't exceed or even come close to the 55% threshold. So to summarize that very complicated statement, if we had a large number of, let's say, low-income students, 55%, we would get what I just showed you on that chart. If we had an additional 5-10% above that, then those students would receive 50% of their base grant above that 55% threshold. For a superintendent, I can tell you we're not going to have that problem. Our income number falls in at 17%. Okay, so what I want to talk a little bit about is, well, I'm hitting a lot of buttons. The old system was this. We're going to give you a base amount, we're going to give you a bunch of other categorical funds, and we're going to tell you how to spend it, and you have to spend what we give you, and you have to fill out a report, and then we're going to measure how successful you were and tell you if you're good or bad. The new system, which I just completely blew, is here's a pile of money. You have some choice and you have some have-tos, but the choice basically gives your school board, your community, the voice in what programs you value and how much of that pile of money that you're going to give to particular programs for kids. So I call this the choose to list, and this will exemplify what I'm talking about. So let's say that we wanted to have the greatest music program in the history of all music programs. One of the choose tos is we could invest a significant portion of our LCFF funding to music. But we wouldn't be able to fund some of the other things. In the old model, all of these things came with a pile of money. All of these things came with a string attached. It's now our choice, our school board's choice, and the community's input to say, okay, what are the things that we value in this funding formula to give our students the education, the quality education that we've been promising them? So the first good news is this, is the old system had a class size, my goodness, had a class size reduction model of 20 to 1, and that was kindergarten through 3rd grade. If you met the mark, you didn't get penalized. If you missed the mark by number of students above the 20 to 1, there was a penalty. In the new system, they've added some funding to the base amount to support K-3 class size reduction, and the new number is 24 to 1. Here's the best news of all. Our district's already met the mark. Our K-3 class sizes are 24 to 1. So any regulation that's tied to this, we already meet it. Class size reduction is very expensive because the translation to class size reduction is hiring more teachers. So with the state giving us money and us already meeting the mark, we don't have to hire additional teachers. We've already done the work. And that is kudos to our board and kudos to Dale Hansen and the group that put that together, because we're already providing that service to our youngest kids. This slide essentially says these are all the things that have to be considered in order to successfully explain the LCFF and then make decisions about how we're going to spend the funds. So we take all these things into consideration. And we have to write this into a plan, and that's called the LCAP, and I'll explain that in a moment. The state asked us to the state has identified for us 8 different areas that they call state priorities. Those are our target areas to show that we're doing a good job for kids. In the strategic planning session, we identified 5 areas of concentration, and you'll find that they marry perfectly well. That student achievement and climate and business and parent involvement and 21st century skills are represented in both of the categories. So what we're doing right now as a district is marrying the work on the strategic plan adopted in December to the state rollout of its plan, LCFF. So this is a very brief overview of all the different communications we made about the strategic plan to the community, to our stakeholders, to show that we've been actively participating and communicating what's going on, and we will continue to do so. Tonight is another opportunity for us to explain what's going on. LCAP, which is the plan you have to write to support your funding in the LCFF new model, you have to give data. And these are all data sources. It's hard to read, so I won't go into the detail. But each of those 8 categories have some specific measurables that you have to meet or explain. So in student achievement, it's the API score, which is the score that makes us the highest performing unified school district in the county. Student engagement is about dropout rates and attendance rates. Course access means that the studies, the things that we say we're going to provide for kids, we will. All of these things have to be explained to the state in the LCAP to be approved for the LCFF funding. So we also have targeted specific groups called subgroups that we have to explain what our goals are and how we're going to provide them high-quality education. And so these are your ethnic minority groups, these are your socioeconomically disadvantaged students, your English learners, your special education students, and your foster youth. So if you have a statistically significant subgroup of students, in our district, for example, we would have our Caucasian population, our Asian population, our Hispanic population, ethnic groups that qualify under this list, and our socioeconomic and the English learners, all of those have to come with an explanation. So we have to write a plan. The plan is called LCAP. The LCAP is a 3-year plan that's annually reviewed and adjusted in July. And we have to set the goals for those identified target groups that I spoke to a second ago. And if I could get the paper to flip, I'll be able to explain the rest. But we also, and this is actually good, we have to explain how our money ties to the kids who it's supposed to serve. And that was what was missing in the old system, is you had copious amounts of money going out there, people doing what they're told to do, but nobody was really accountable for what the scores were and how the money was specifically used, and explaining it. If it's not working or working, do you know, and what are you going to do about it if it's not? So this is what I believe is really the positive for the community for LCAP, is we have to explain where the money goes and if it's working for kids. So finally, and I only have 2 slides to go, in the process of adopting LCAP, because we did the work on the strategic plan, all of these areas about reaching out to the community, talking to people, getting parent surveys, talking to kids, all of that work was done. We have an extensive survey result which helped us identify our areas of concentration. And now we're really at the process of writing. And so we have a template the state just gave us. They adopted it in January. We're going to fill it out. We're going to present it to the community in a number of different ways. And there's a former strategic plan subcommittee which has been turned into our district advisory committee, and there's some people here in the audience who's on it. And they will be the ultimate community advisory group that says, yes, now pass it on to the board. And so we have quite a bit of work to do in the next couple of months to write the plan, but the plan will coincide perfectly with the launch of our strategic plan. And so we're basically right here, which is in January, they put out the regulations and they changed the way they do API scores, which is the state test score that we get. We have the template that's coming out, and we have to turn it in, or at least they're officially adopting it in March, which is kind of hard to write a plan when you don't have the plan to write. But we have a draft of it, so we're pretty clear on what we're doing. Finally, we'll be bringing to our board the 3-year LCAP, and the board will adopt our 3-year budget that supports it, and in July we submit it to the state for approval. So not the most exciting presentation. I'd rather talk about kids and how they're doing in our schools, but it's important that the community knows that on top of the transition to Common Core state standards assessment, there's also a massive overhaul of the state finance system. And with that, I'm done. Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Projected enrollment for the next school year.
Our projected enrollment for the next school year is the question, and we're looking somewhere around 3,100 students and the expansion of the high school, which opens up with 9th and 10th graders. Our increasing enrollment at the K-8 level is it's slowed significantly, but it's still a tiny little bit up, so we're very confident around 3,100.
Of the 3,100, how many with high school?
We're looking at somewhere between 450, 475. Any other questions?
What were your original projections when we first unified? How many do you think we would?
Jim, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I can speak with conviction that we're that 450 to 475. We're tracking the numbers like to the people's addresses, so we're very confident that that's. All right. Thank you.